Hi, my name is Scott and I work for EyeRis. Today I'm here to teach you how to use the EyeRis iridology software, specifically how to open an image and place the grid. Now the first step to doing this is to just click the open button just here on the left, and we'll get the open image file window. Depending on your operating system, this window can be a little bit different, but with my computer I'm using Windows 7, so I have the Windows 7 window. As you can see here, I already have the EyeRis photos I want to use already opened. It opens up the last place you had your images. So if you need to change the folder you're looking in to see where your images are, just click on this down arrow, and here you can see all of your normal folders, so to speak. So just browse to the folder that you need, as you do with any other document you need to open. Now, because of standard iridology practice, we'll first use the right eye, so we'll just double click on that and you can see it's open here. Now the first step before you even start thinking about the grid is you want to make sure it's the right eye. Now we can see here we've actually labeled the eye picture Larissa 9/11, which is the date, and right. So if you look up here you can see female right, so that's correct. You can also see it at the bottom just down here, female right. So if we need to change that, you can click on the gender button and it will change from female to male. But we want it to be female, so we'll just leave it at that. And now if we want to change it to the left eye, we just click on this left right button here and you can see it change. But we want to leave it the way it is. Now to firstly open up the grid, we'll just click on the grid button. Now before I continue any further, I just want to explain that I am not an iridologist, so where you see me place the grid, where I place the lines, are probably going to be incorrect. I don't know anything about iridology. I'm the IT person at EyeRis, but I do know how to use the software and I do feel confident that I can teach you how to use the software today. So now that we got that over and done with, probably the first step is to place the grid. That is if your eye image is totally correct. Now if the eye image is slightly not upright, or if you want to move it, you can do that. I'll just hide the grid first. If you want to rotate the image, you would hold down the control button and press left and right. Now that'll only adjust it slightly. Now the problem with this is we don't want to do it too many times. If you do it too many times, you'll start seeing the image distorting. Now that is definitely, it's unusable. We can't use that image. Even if you change it back, it still totally disintegrates and destroys the image. So when you're taking your images, try to keep the camera up straight as best you can. I mean, sometimes you can't be perfect, but you only want to press that control button and left and right maybe 1 or 2 times, or you'll distort the image too much that you can't use it. So I'll just close this and open up the right image again. Perfect. Now if you want to resize the window as well, you can put your cursor on the outside and you'll get this little 2 arrows, so we can expand it. It's a little bit glitchy, but it does work, so you can do that as well. Now as I did before, I'll just open up the grid again, and that looks pretty good. So generally the first step would be to move the grid. So to move the grid, we hold down the shift key and move the up, right, down and left arrows. Now you can see the grid only moves millimeters, not even. This is so you can keep the image really really precise, because we find it's a lot easier to do it with the keyboard. It might take a little bit longer at first, but it's a lot more precise than, you know, clicking and dragging with the mouse. So we'll just move the image up. So I'm holding shift while I'm doing this. That looks okay, and then shift again and I'll move it left and right. Actually, that looks pretty centered. So the next step is to resize the grid because it's a little big at the moment. So to do that, we hold down the control key, press up and down. Up to make it larger, down to make it smaller. So yep, that looks okay for this video. So the next step is to move the pupil from left to right. So in the top right hand corner here, we can see pupil, IPB, stomach, and ANW. So pupil is in grey just here, so we know that that's selected. So to move the pupil, we hold down the Alt key and we press left and right. So I want to move it to the right. So that looks okay. And the next step is we want to resize the pupil. So we hold Alt again and we go up and down. Generally you want to make it down because that red line there you can see moving needs to be totally inside the pupil. And now just remember that at any point while you're adjusting the grid, you can move back to previous steps. All you have to do is do the appropriate keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to move the grid, it looks a little bit to the right to me, I'll hold down the shift key and go left, and that'll adjust that. I can still resize the image. It's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of time playing around with it, and with practice it'll take you less and less time. So I'm going to move the pupil to the right a little bit, so I'll hold down Alt and press the right key, and yep, that looks good. I might make it a little smaller, so I'll go Alt and then down. Look, that looks pretty good to me. For the purposes of this video, that'll do. So once the pupil is finalized, the next button we want to press is the IPB, or the neurostatic ring. So we click on this button here and it becomes grey and selected. So to change the IPB, like the pupil, we hold down Alt and we go up and down, and that will adjust the IPB. So because I don't know anything about iridology, that looks good enough for me. I'll move on to the stomach. So we just click on the stomach button and it's the same shortcut, Alt and up and down, just to adjust it to wherever the stomach line is on the particular eye image you're using. And then finally the ANW, you just click on that and it goes grey to show you selected it, and then the Alt key, holding it down, we go up and down, and that will adjust the IPB to wherever it needs to be. So that's looking okay for now. So the next image we want to place the grid on is obviously the left eye. So we just click on the open button and we go Larissa left and open. And as you can see, this image has opened on top of the other image. Because I resized the previous image, you can actually see it. But if you click on the other image, it looks as if the other image is hidden. But all you need to do is just click and hold on the bar here, and you can move it across, and then you can easily switch between images by clicking on them and bringing the one you click on to the top. So I just might increase the size of this image a little bit. So this image is actually down a little bit, just to make it easier to use. If you need to reposition the eye, you can actually hold down the no, you don't have to hold down anything, sorry. You just click on the arrow keys with no shift, no control, or no alt. And that'll actually move the image. Now the image is actually cut off at the bottom, so I can't move it, unfortunately. So this was a bad example. I'll show you better if I... No, sorry, you can't move the image with the arrow keys. When you move the image with the arrow keys, it's... Oh no, sorry. The stretch button. The stretch button puts the image all around this border here, but if you click on the stretch button, it'll unstretch it. So now that it's unstretched, then we can move it with the arrow keys. So right now I'm just pressing the up button. I'm sorry for the inconsistencies here, but that's, you know, you learn something new every day, right? So that looks okay to me. It is cut off a little bit at the bottom there, but you know, this is just a demonstration video, so I hope you understand that. So to go over again, firstly I click on the grid button, and you can actually see the grid is smaller than the eye now that we've unstretched the image and moved it. So to increase the size of the grid, we hold down the shift key and we go up, down, left and right. Sorry, I must correct myself. That's to move the grid. I apologize, but yeah, it's all the same. Sorry to be so unprofessional about this. So the next step is we want to increase the grid size, so we hold down the control key and press up and down. So that will increase the grid, and because I have already moved it, that looks okay to me. So to move the pupil now, we hold down the Alt key and we move left and right. Yep, that's okay for now. And then we go Alt again and down or up to place the pupil inside the pupil just there. So that looks okay. And then to resize the IPB stomach and A&W, you only have to select the appropriate button and you'll see it go grey. You hold down Alt and go up and down. This is the same for all of the pupil, IPB and stomach. However, if you do hold down Alt and left and right at any time, it will move all of the lines and the pupil. So just be aware of that. And the A and W as well, Alt and up and down to resize it. So now that the grid is placed, it's actually already changed to the left eye. This is a default feature of the program when we open this one up. But if you do need to change the gender, just remember that you do have to click on that gender button again. And if you do need to change left and right, you click on the left and right buttons. Now, the last step is you want to hide the grid. So you just click on the grid button again, and you can see the grid is hidden. But don't worry, it hasn't been lost. If you click on the grid button again, you'll bring it right back up straight away. Another option with placing the grid is if you can't see the black lines, you can change the color. So if you prefer to adjust the image with the white, say if it's a brown eye for example, you can. But it will still hide with the grid button. Generally, to diagnose an eye, you will want to have the grid off it. You can diagnose it with the grid on, There's nothing wrong with that, but the picture of the eye is definitely much clearer without the grid. And now just as I move my cursor over the eye, I want you to look just here, because you'll see the zone appearing where I have my cursor. So if everything is correct, I wouldn't know if everything was correct because I'm not an iridologist, but this is the last check that you can use to see if the grid is in place. Now, thank you for watching this video. I hope you can look past my subtle mistakes and ums and ahs, but I hope that this video has shown you the basics of how to put a grid on an iris photo. The next video I'll be posting will explain how to diagnose the image, and then I'll release a video on how to make the report. Two very important steps, but we've been finding that people have been having trouble with placing the grid, so that was the reason for this video. And also, as a final note, I'd like to mention that all of the shortcuts that I've used today are all fully outlined on the EyeRis Quick Guide. I'll include a link to download the EyeRis Quick Guide below this video in the description. If you don't have the EyeRis Quick Guide, I'd highly recommend downloading it just to print it off and put it on your desk, so that if you forget any of the shortcuts, you can quickly look at the Quick Guide and it'll just jog your memory. So thank you very much for watching this video again, and you'll hear from me shortly.